WNBA Players Association President Nneka Ogwumike gave us one of, in my opinion, one of the most detailed looks at where players stand sort of in the middle of these tense CBA negotiations. Yesterday, a video was posted on Sue Bird's channel, but yesterday we did see this a specific clip just about the CBA, and I was extremely excited to see it. And I watched it, and I was like, man, Nneka Ogwumike is literally the perfect person for this president role. And I was happy that we finally heard from her because, like, we heard from Fee. We've been hearing from a lot of players saying a lot of stuff, and I have been like, hey, I want to hear from Nneka, and Nneka spoke, right? So Nneka Ogwumike, she is the WNBPA, meaning the Players Association. She is the president, as voted on by the players. And, she's been balancing the role of being the union leader, also while being a active player as well. We did hear Nneka Ogwumike in her conversation back up Napheesa's statement against Cathy Engelbert, and she really just laid out what players want and how they are planning to get it, right? And so I want to just talk about that, right? I want to talk about that. As president of the Players Association, Nneka, she said that she's constantly battling for identities, right? She talked about Nneka the person, Nneka the president, Nneka the union member, and Nneka just the WNBA player, right? And she talks about how in the past players have been silent, but silence is no longer an option, right? She talks about keeping quiet is not always the way to go, and talked about leadership through empowering others to speak and be heard. And one of those things is, backing up Napheesa Collier and what Napheesa Collier had to say. At the end of the day, Nneka and other players are here to play basketball, and that means making sure that their next CBA is set up not just for current players, but also for previous players. They talked a little bit about a retirement type of thing, and Sue Bird seemed to be very happy about that. And also just for the future players who will come in the league, right? And so that's a thing. And I did want to share in particular a clip from the interview that I thought was like super important to hear. And this was Nneka Ogwumike specifically talking about Napheesa Collier and sharing her thoughts about that. So here is Nneka Ogwumike on Napheesa.
What's your thoughts on the whole back and forth of it all?
Well, I mean, I think what Napheesa did was an exceptional display of that leadership, of speaking truth to power in a way that she can be heard. We've had players do it in the past. We've had teams do it in the past. And today, this is where we're at. And this is not where we want to stay. And I think that that's exactly why she's a member of our executive committee. I agreed with what Napheesa said. I think everybody has a way of communicating what they said. And I think she really spoke a lot of the sentiments that the players had been expressing, many of which, to be honest, were conversations that have been had, not publicly, with leadership. But she took it upon herself to use her platform in a way that was monumental and is going to contribute to the transformational change that we're going to see. I think that there's still much to be wanted from Cathy's comments. And I understand that we're not just in the middle of negotiations, but, the playoffs are happening. You're trying to run leagues. We have maybe perhaps the largest free agency on the precipice once this deal gets done.
It's the largest. Yeah. You all are free agents.
We are all free agents. And so there's a lot on the line. And I think that's why Napheesa spoke up, She definitely spoke to things that we talk about on the EC, and it's amazing as well for someone like her and for someone like Stewie to be in a position to kind of peek into what it's like to run a league. And I think that that's the advantage that we have in having players like that who are creating more opportunities and creating the growth that we want to see, for us to be able to do the same thing for the league that we all love and the league that we all play in.
Yeah.
I mean, Nneka, she's just such a great talker. She really is. And also, guys, if y'all are wondering why is that audio so sped up, is because I forgot to turn it down when I was like recording like the segments I wanted to record. I listen to everything in 1.5 speed, usually, sometimes just 2.0 speed on YouTube. And sometimes when I'm recording something, I forget to turn it back to normal speed. And so if you are if you're like me, that's what I did. And I forgot to turn it back. So my apologies on why it's so fast. But you all get the sentiment of what Nneka said. Hey, she weighed in on what Napheesa had to say, and she's like, hey, yeah, we back her, right? Nneka was saying that Napheesa was showing leadership, speaking truth to power, and she really was, right? And she also talked about how, Napheesa and Breanna Stewart have kind of like a bird's eye view into what stuff could be, because if you don't remember, Napheesa and Stewie run unrivaled. And so like they have some sort of look into what a professional league now, of course, is unrivaled, not the WNBA, but they have some look into like what that process looks like and what they want to see more of from the WNBA. And so Napheesa being able to, speak, the way that she did in the exit interview. Now, while she did not discuss it with the executive committee, they clearly back her, right? They clearly back what Napheesa had to say, and the Cathy Engelbert of it all was not handled right? We all know what has happened. If you don't know, let me just quickly say it. During Napheesa's exit interview, she read a basically 4.5 minute long letter that she wrote after she got injured. She got injured in Game 3 of the WNBA semifinals, and in that letter, she congratulated the Phoenix Mercury, and then she also basically aired out the referees and how bad they have been all season. And also, she aired out the front office, i.e. Cathy, for not being personable and not really, engaging with her players on a personal level, like when players get injured and stuff happens, right? Also, she called out Cathy and the front office for not being responsive to what players want and need in terms of fixing the referee situation, fixing just other things that has, I guess, been going on. And she talked about how the WNBA has great fans, right? It's a great product, but the leadership is trash. So she called out, Cathy called out the front office, and in response, later that day, Cathy wrote a standard response that was basically like acknowledging, but at the same time not really acknowledging what Napheesa said that Cathy said, meaning the thing about Caitlin, benefiting heavily from the WNBA, and how if it wasn't for the WNBA, Caitlin wouldn't be making X amount of money, right? Talking about how players should be on their knees, thanking her for giving them their media rights deal, right? The fact that that she talked about only losers complain about the refs. Like, there's a lot of stuff that was alleged that Cathy Engelbert said. Cathy Engelbert, released a standard statement that she didn't outright deny anything. Later on, we did see at the start of Game 1 of the WNBA Finals, Cathy took questions and basically denied some of the stuff that Napheesa said that Cathy said, and mentioned that she was going to have a meeting this week with Napheesa Collier. After hearing that, Napheesa was actually like, you know what? Nope. We're not meeting anymore. I don't want to meet anymore. No. And now we are at where we are at, right? We're at this weird moment in WNBA time. Okay? But anyway, this is a thing that's an issue, and clearly basically everybody and their mama when it comes to WNBA is backing Napheesa Collier. I haven't heard not one person yet in the WNBA back Cathy Engelbert, right? Basically, everybody is with Napheesa. And there was another thing in that interview that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to talk about that as well. It's sort of the challenge that I believe Sue Bird spoke on this. She was talking about the challenge that WNBA players face when wanting to call out problems and issues in the WNBA without hurting the WNBA's image of people saying, see, I told you they're this, they're that, and blah, 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 right? They talked about a situation when they were in the Wubble where players were dealing with a terrible laundry room, which I forgot that this was a thing. But anyway, they talked about a terrible laundry room and how it had bugs, and it was in Florida, so the bugs are bigger. And the debate that they had was like, do you speak up and make this public? Because I guess they were talking like to the league and nothing was getting fixed, right? And so it was like, okay, well, now since no one's doing anything about this terrible laundry situation, should I speak up and have that look bad on the league that, they can't even get a clean laundry room for WNBA players to wash their clothes, right? Do you speak up and make the WNBA look bad, or do you stay quiet? And Alicia Clark ended up going on, I believe, First Take, and basically talked about the situation about the laundry room, and it was fixed the next day, right? So, keeping quiet is not always the answer. There's sometimes a need to speak up and speak up where you can be heard. And that's like one of the things that they talked about yesterday. And I was like, oh, I really like that. I thought that segment was really, really, really good because there is a balance of, okay, when and where should you speak out? Because that there are people who will use you speaking out as a overall dig on the league as well. And so I think that's an interesting wrinkle that, exists, but like I didn't really think about like that in terms of the WNBA until they talked about that. I was like, yeah, that's a real thing. That is absolutely a real thing. Another thing that was talked about yesterday that I really like, and also I don't even know if I don't think that show was actually live yesterday. It's just that they put it out yesterday. They also talked about trust and the fact that this is not personal, right? The issues that players have is not personal, it's business. And she reminded everybody that emotions can cloud negotiations, but players, hey, they are coming in prepared, they're coming in informed, and they're coming in focused on the overall growth of the league. And I wanted to actually specify that specific clip because I actually thought that was really good. So here is Nneka on whether this is personal.
Right? Trust in these negotiations. It needs to be built. It needs to be sustained for really any negotiation to be successful. This is also something that Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, spoke about recently. What did you think of his comments?
I disagree that it's personal. We've been saying this from the beginning. I think maybe perhaps even since opt-out, it's business. That's certainly the mantra that's been imparted upon us from the league. This is business. I think that you can take it personally if you, perhaps naturally in a negotiation, you don't like what's being said, but you and I have been there. Yeah, it feels personal at times, but it's business at the end of the day. And I think that our players have been doing an amazing job. Our union members have been doing an amazing job of displaying our knowledge about the business and understanding where we want to see it go, which is for it to grow and for us to be represented in that growth moving forward. So I understand that, relationships have to be mended in negotiations. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think it's quite simple, really. Yeah. So taking a lot of the emotions that perhaps you have out of it can be alleviated in the negotiations.
Absolutely.
Mended in negotiations. And when I tell you, I was like, go ahead, Nneka Ogwumike. Yeah. Because yes, there's stuff that there is emotions in it. There's relationships that does need to be mended, but at the end of the day, those emotions and those relationship stuff, work that out in negotiations. Okay? Because it seems like basically Nneka Ogwumike is basically being like, hey, let's keep the main thing. And the main thing is the CBA negotiations. And it's ensuring that we get a good deal out of it. So, all stuff aside, this is business. Let's get down to it. Let's get down to the X's and O's and let's make some stuff shake. And I gotta say that that's an example of just Nneka really recognizing that dog, sure, people might have certain feelings about stuff, but at the end of the day, don't let that cloud negotiations, and let's keep the main thing, which is the CBA, and mend that stuff in negotiation. I personally, I loved when she said that, because I was like, yeah, you're right. Yes, there's stuff that has to get worked through, but at the end of the day, the WNBA is running a business. The players are a business. All these individual players, they're business in themselves. They are. They're brands in themselves. They are the product in a lot of ways. And I think that that Nneka clearly recognizes this, and truly, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if whenever Nneka Ogwumike retires, she eventually becomes the commissioner or something like that. I could totally see it because of the way that she sort of thinks about the way she thinks about things. It's like, hey, we know the product we give you, and we know that things have risen in just about every facet when it comes to the WNBA. But the one thing that has not risen is player salaries, and we want a better cut of what is going on. Right? We believe that it's not even a belief. They know that the players are bringing more to the table than they're getting in terms of salary. Right? And so, yeah, I thought that was really good to just overall hear, and that they're looking at everything. The CBA negotiation people, they're looking at everything and trying to make sure that overall, above everything, a good deal is done, right? Because players are coming in, they're prepared, they're focused, they're ready, and they know the business of the WNBA. Now, is the WNBA still hiding the books from them? Yes, but yeah, they know what's going on. And also, what's at stake for the CBA? Nneka, was super clear about this. Players want a salary structure that grows with the business of the WNBA. They want standardized facilities, right? Since most teams now have dedicated practice facilities, the ones that don't are at a strategic disadvantage, and they want to kind of bring everybody up to at least a higher level. Right? They want retirement protection so that players who built the league are not left behind during the league's rise. Right? And Sue Bird, and this is why I think it's really good to have Sue Bird leading this interview with Nneka Ogwumike, because Sue Bird, if you don't know, is a legacy WNBA player. She was in the WNBA for a long time, played her entire career with the Seattle Storm. She was involved in the previous CBA negotiations. Also, full disclosure, guys, if you don't know, Sue Bird is actually on the ownership group for the Seattle Storm. And so, yeah, she is a team owner, right? She doesn't have a majority stake, but a minority stake in the Seattle Storm. So she's a team owner, full disclosure. Also, Sue Bird is going to be the person who's deciding which players actually make it on for USA Basketball for the next Olympics. She is the managing director, I believe, of USA Basketball for the women's side, and so she's going to be determining rosters and whatnot. And so, yeah, so Sue Bird does have a very interesting role in this, right? She's a part owner, so there's stuff that she can't say. She is the managing director of Team USA. Also, she has, I think, several media companies, right? I know her and Megan have Touch More, which is a production company. She has Bird's Eye View, which is her podcast that's like specifically her and basketball, right? She is a co-owner of Together, who now has just added Angel Reese as a co-owner of, and absolutely touches a lot when it comes to conversations with women's basketball players and yada, yada, yada. Basically, what I am saying is Sue Bird has her arms in basically everything that the WNBA touches or that WNBA players touch, right? She, on the production side, on the media side, she owns a company that is highlighting WNBA players, right? That's paying WNBA players to do stuff and creating shows and all that good stuff. Remember, guys. The show that Teresa Pleasance and Sydney Colson have, it's on Together, which is owned by Sue Bird. So like Sue Bird is also like hiring WNBA players to do stuff. Right? And so she's doing that. She's a co-owner of the Seattle Storm. So there's some stuff that she can't say. Right? And she is now going to be selecting the players on the Team USA. So the reason why I'm mentioning all of that is to say that Nneka Ogwumike, yes, is talking to a former player, but she's talking to a former player who has involvement in everything. And so do I think that there is a conflict of interest there? Yes, absolutely, which is why I'm acknowledging it. Yes, there is a conflict of interest. Yes. You're a team owner, but you're hiring players who are not on your team to do stuff for your other company. And you are selecting the future of the U.S. National team, which in a lot of ways is very much tied to the WNBA. And so it's a whole thing, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Right? Tisha says, to be fair, women's basketball is a niche interest group. You aren't going to find anyone worth their salt and knowledgeable enough that does not have a potential conflict of interest, so you have to deal with it. I mean, yeah, facts. Yeah. And in my book, it's important to just note that and have that in your minds. And so the reason why I'm even mentioning this about Sue Bird is that when you listen to the actual like full conversation, have that in your minds that like, Nneka is not just talking to a normal former basketball player, right? She's also talking to someone who actively has skin in the game, not just in the success of the WNBA, but also in the success of American women's basketball players, right? And so I think it's something to note. It is what it is, right? It absolutely is what it is. And truly, Sue Bird is incredible in like what she has built after she's been done with the WNBA. Like, you know, she didn't retire and just sit back and do nothing. Like, this lady has been building. And it's pretty awesome to see. It is pretty awesome to see. Ashley says, sure, but folks are calling out Fee more than Sue. I rarely hear about all of Sue's ventures. I mean, here's the deal. Napheesa's in the conversation more because Napheesa's an active WNBA player. Sue's not. I think the conflict of interest of both are the same. But for both, it is what it is. Now, yes, is there a conflict of interest for, Napheesa Collier helping to write the checks because she's a co-owner of her and Brianna Stewart? Is it a conflict of interest for them to be writing the checks of WNBA players, of basically their coworkers in the WNBA for another league, and and also being a leadership person in the Players Association? Sure, that's a conflict of interest, but it is what it is. It is what it is, right? That's not to say that, oh, she should be kicked off. I mean, if the players are cool with it, then whatever. Because here's the thing. The players vote for union members. If they voted for her and they cool with it, whatever. It's important to note that it is a conflict of interest. But, I mean, it's not like a outrage machine thing. It's just a thing to note. Okay, conflict of interest there. Keep that in mind. Okay? Easy. Keep it in mind. Same thing for Sue Bird. There is a conflict of interest with her being involved in so much stuff, right? In terms of hiring players to do stuff for her company, in terms of selecting the future players for the CBA, or not CBA, for the USA Basketball, right? For her being a team owner and interviewing players who are currently in negotiation, basically with her, because she is a team owner, right? When it comes to the CBA. And so, like, yes, there are conflict of interest there too. It is what it is. You acknowledge it, you keep it in mind, and you move forward, right? So to me, a conflict of interest does not mean that, oh, you should absolutely stop what you're doing. It means peep game, and it is what it is. Michael says, how is Fee in a conflict of interest? These two leagues are not in direct competition. To me, yes, 5-on-5 is not the same thing as 3-on-3, but to me, the conflict of interest is in the employees are identical. Like, there is nobody who is in a rival that is not in the WNBA. Nobody. So to me, that's the conflict of interest, right? Is that the product is the same, meaning the players are the same. Of course, not all the players in the WNBA are in Unrivaled, but I'm saying all Unrivaled players are in the WNBA. It is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. Just acknowledge it. Peep game. Move on. Right? And for those people who are like, oh, Napheesa should be taken off the negotiation table and blah, 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 blah. The players select that. So if the players are cool with it, what's the big deal? Again, acknowledge the conflict of interest and move on. Anyway, one thing that I thought was really interesting is how, I believe it was Sue Bird, she talked about how the last CBA was the shirt before the shirt. And I thought it was hilarious that she brought out the Jersey Shore reference, because did y'all used to watch Jersey Shore? I used to watch it initially, and then I just got to a point where I'm just like, this is just so stupid. Like, I just stopped watching eventually. But that was several seasons in. Like, I was watching Jersey Shore, and I was like, these people are crazy. Like, I was like, do normal people act like this? Am I just like not normal? Like, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, gym tan laundry. Like, I was like, before that, I'd never known people like tanned like that. I was like, what in the world? Like, it's a different world. A different world than where we come from. Yes, it is, y'all. Anyway, anyway, Sue Bird kind of talked about the last CBA as a shirt before the shirt. It was a setup for where they wanted to go in the future. Now, the WNBA was not in a position in the last CBA negotiations to negotiate for a sort of a stake in the growth, meaning where it's not a flat percentage number of where the money will go in terms of like player salaries and whatnot. It was very set in place, right? And it was because they hadn't seen the growth, but they knew the growth was coming. And so it was a setup for this moment when real growth finally arrived. And that real growth is finally here. So the shirt before the shirt set them up for this moment right here. For the players of the WNBA to finally capitalize on the success, the financial success that the WNBA has had. So the bottom line is, hey, the WNBA is at a crossroad, not words. I was thinking about that crossword puzzle. Anyway, the league is growing very, very fast, and the players want to make sure that their value, grows with the growth of the league, right? Nneka Ogwumike and the others on the executive committee are drawing a line in the sand. They have given their expectations about what they want from the league, from the player salary structure to facilities, to retirement benefits and other things. And they want this next CBA to be fully transformational. So, what do you think? What do you think about what Nneka Ogwumike had to say? What do you think about the league committing to a revenue sharing model that the players want, right? What do you think about the players, continue fight to learn specifically what the books look like in the WNBA in terms of the league saying, well, we're not super successful just yet. And players are like, well, hey, we're seeing all this money come through. Where is it going? Like, what's going on? How are the books looking? Yeah, I think there's just overall a lot of overall thoughts about this next CBA. But I tell you this, once it's done, I think I'm going to take some days off of work whenever the CBA is done, and I'm gonna read through that whole thing. It's probably gonna be close to 100 pages. I'm gonna read through that whole thing, and we about to make some sense about this stuff. Okay. So anyway, what do y'all think about what's going on? Drop your thoughts and comments in below, and let me just know what you think about this. And also, if you want more continued coverage about the WNBPA and their fight for the CBA, keep it locked on the channel, and I will be doing just that. Okay.